said, you know what, I am sorry to tell you the child has Down syndrome. And that would advise you to do is to terminate, get rid of this child. Hello everyone. Thank you once again for coming back. This is Mama Strength Diary. We are continuing with our program. As I promised, I said I was gonna come back with another video, and today here I am. And today we're talking about the day everything changed forever. If this is your first time to come across my video, you might not know, please I'll ask you to go back and watch the video that we had before, and please asking you to subscribe because more is coming. We are sharing strength, hope in this channel, and please subscribe to Mama Strength Diary. So I said we're talking about a day everything changed forever. Before that day, I can tell you, just like any other mother who is expecting a child, everything was fine. There was so much excitement, so much excitement that you're expecting a baby. If your mom, the feelings at that time, you're expecting a child, everybody's ready, you're already having some plans, you're already having some imagination in your head, and, preparing, even thinking of, maybe planning to get baby steps, and perhaps maybe you've even bought some at that time, but I don't remember bought, any other time really. But yes, I was planning. There was some money which I kept aside to start doing, normal shopping, normal stuffs, So that was it. That was just before that day. There was this excitement, just like any other mom, expecting a child. That news is joy, so I was excited. I was planning, I was preparing, looking forward to see my unborn, child, imagining the future, as I was, telling you before, and I was already a mother now, so I knew I was experiencing, but I still always excited, whether it is your 10th or whatever. It's a child is a child, so there was so much excitement. It's already, big dream for my newborn baby, and one thing that I'll tell you is there was no concern whatsoever. I felt just like any other pregnancy. The children I had before, there was no, it was just the same. It felt like the same normal, pregnant mom, so there was no concern at all, as I will tell you. So, the appointment. At first, as I tell you, I did tell you, I think before in the video that I had before, that the appointment wasn't my first appointment, antenatal appointment. It was actually my third appointment, because at that time, when I had the previous appointment and I was told to come for another appointment. They did book it so, quick, So I just thought like, it's just like any other normal appointment that, you go through during pregnancy, really. So I never imagined my life was about to change. I never. So for that day of appointment, and to be precise, I was 5 months old pregnant by that time when I had for that particular appointment. I decided to get on a bus. It was a quicker, nice walk from home to the bus stop, and then jump on a bus, and went for the appointment. And I went alone for the appointment. I thought, as I told you, it was just like a sort of routine check, scan, before. But then when I got for the scan, as I was lying down, I could see the atmosphere, like, okay, during the scan I could see the doctor, because there was another assistant that was looking out there. I noticed something different about the doctor's look, the behavior. They're looking at each other, even though they were not telling me, but you can read and study somebody's body language. But I noticed something. For me, I was excited. I don't want to tell me, but what are they going to tell me? Anything. Because I didn't ask about, I didn't want to know about the sex of the baby. I always don't want to. So I was like, okay, what is it? But there was this body language that got me a bit curious. I wanted to know what was happening. Why are they looking at each other? I was like, oh, why are they looking at each other? And here comes the news. It was like, I was like, when it was like you are hit with, I don't know how to describe it. I became a bit emotional, from excitement and this and that, when I heard the news. So the doctor just looked up and said, okay, wipe yourself and get up, have a seat, make yourself comfortable, which I did. I sat down, and then he straight away told me, said, you know what, I am sorry to tell you, the child has Down syndrome, and he said has a severe Down syndrome, that we believe, that there is no any other. He did put it and said, apart from, there is only one thing that would advise you to do, is to terminate, get rid of this child, because it's really severe, very, very severe Down syndrome, because he's only 5 months, which is a good time, but it can still be like, put yourself in my shoes at that time as a mother. You came with all the excitement. But there's one thing that I'll tell you, I really didn't understand everything. I did not really, if you ask me if I did really understand I did really get it right, what they said at that time, I'll tell you no. The words kept playing, later on. And that's when I somehow did get understanding of what they were saying. But at that moment, I will tell you, I did not understand anything that they were telling me, because it was like I was hit, by a moving train. I was hit, and that I didn't know where, at one point it felt like I didn't even know where I was or who I was at that time, So I don't even know what was going through my mind at that time, to be honest with you. But it all felt like I was in a different, different world from the one that I was in when I walked in for that appointment. I was I wouldn't say I was shocked, but I was confused. I became numb, but I didn't cry at that time. I didn't cry. I did cry later, but not at that time. I didn't cry at that time. So, and I don't remember I said anything much to the doctors, but just got up, put on my shoes, dressed up well. After that, picked my up, and I just told the doctors, I said, thank you very much, I'm going home, because they told me to go and think about whatever they told me. So I told them, yeah, I'll get back to you. And I remember one of them reminded me, said, earlier the better, so just call, this is the number, call us, or just come back and walk in and let us know. But the best thing is to call us, So I said, yes, I'll do that. And then they gave me a routine anyway to give you another appointment next you are coming. So I was given another appointment after that. So I walk out with another appointment. So I left. It's going home. And it's fine. I don't remember much about going home. My mind was full of questions, and as I said before, I don't remember even crying, but I wasn't really myself. I wasn't, the person that I know I am. But yeah, I walked. Found my way back to the bus stop. I didn't tell anybody. First of all, I went alone. And even when I got home, I kind of didn't have the strength to tell anyone. I kept it at that point to myself. You can tell that I wasn't myself, because at one point I got on the wrong bus. I then realized, I think, when I was in a few stops, and then I remember I think I got a wrong bus. So I had to come off, and then I came out. It was still the right route, but the wrong bus. So I came off, and then I waited for the right bus that took me home. Journey home was okay. Apart from I was asking too many questions. I wasn't myself. I wasn't in the right mood at that point. I missed. I bought it, a wrong bus. But then I realized, and I came off and then picked the right bus, go home, kept to myself, didn't want to say anything to anybody, so there were so many questions, in my mind I was asking, but, perhaps I was asking myself, and, the same me didn't know the answers. So at this point, of my life. That's where my faith and strength had to come in. Before I did anything, at this point, I didn't know who to turn to, what to do. But one thing that came to me was to pray. Before I could tell anybody, before I could mention to anybody what I'd gone through. So I prayed and I asked God for guidance. I asked God for strength. I asked God for forgiveness, because at one point I did say something that not measured to my God. It's my greatest. He has done so many things, wonderful things in my life. So I had to pray for strength, pray for hope. But what I prayed for at that time is I needed strength. I just needed strength, for God. And I prayed to God to lead me into making this decision, because I remember I was meant to call this hospital back. So I asked for that strength from God. After prayer, then I decided to tell people who were important in my life. I did tell my husband, mentioned it to him. He was, of course, devastated. But then I also had to call my mom and tell my mom the news. That woman is rock solid in our faith. She told me, she said, you need to pray. She completely disagreed with the suggestion that the doctors were giving to me. And even my husband disagreed and said, no, that's not going to happen. By the way, they answered whatever they told. Just telling them again, mentioning it to them, I got strength. It made so much difference than when I was carrying it alone. And then they also went forward to tell me, both of them, that no, that's not going to happen. We are going to go with this pregnancy, come what may. So I got so much encouragement from them. So what kept me going, was my prayer, the strength, the people around me, the encouragement that I got, the support, the love. Most importantly, my faith that I prayed God. Remember, I prayed to God. I kept praying for strength. At that point, there was nothing I needed like strength. I needed to be strong. For myself, I needed to be strong for this unborn baby, and I needed to be strong for my family. I needed to be strong for the young kids that I had. They didn't want to see mom, always tearing this and that. So I needed to be strong. And at that point, I continued praying for wisdom. I continued praying for strength. So at that point, I picked a phone call, I think after 3 days, and I called the hospital and I told them, I said, sorry, I'm not coming as you suggested. I am keeping this pregnancy and we are